So, ladies and gents, and welcome in. Another clearing my head kind of video. So let's see what the phone notes hold today. We have a cup of tea at the ready. Hope you're all doing well anyway. Hope you're all having a jolly good day / week. I just realised I haven't even opened up a Word document, so I'll just be a second there. Probably shouldn't do this immediately after waking up. Still aching from the gym. Right. We've got it open. Let's get straight into it. After changing the font. There we go. So, what have we got? May. Is this May 20? Yeah, May 2024. I just realised we should have opened the other one. Never mind. I'll add it into it later on. So, freedom of speech is the topic of this particular note. It's a very short one. So, if an idea is so bad, surely giving it a platform to be picked apart is better than driving it underground to fester. So initially, apparently, I was thinking about kids swearing, and then the use, or to the use of the N-word, or the N-word. I felt like such an idiot having to say the N-word. Come on now. Ridiculous. Please take context into account. The use of that particular word, that derogatorily, and then platforming bad ideas / ideologies. How's platforming not a word? How's derogatorily not a word? Oh, derogatorily. Terrible. So obviously that would be racism. Or, yeah. Most likely racism. Oh. Could just be using it as a bad word in order to try and insult someone for not that reason, I guess, but most likely racism. But I'm still unsure of this, whether giving something a platform is better. I think I mentioned this in one of the other videos whereby I gave the wounds analogy. You know, if you consider these kind of things, these ideologies as like a wound, is it better to kind of cover it up, which potentially has the possibility for it to kind of and pretend it's not there and not do anything about it? It has the potential to obviously fester. I think that's a good word. Become infected and not be very good long term. But then again, if you open it up and give it a platform, would that make it potentially perceived to be more acceptable in certain people's eyes? So maybe it's different depending upon the particular thing that's being platformed. I'm still leaning towards, I think it's better to give it a platform and then people discuss things with the knowledge that everyone's kind of not to blame fundamentally for their beliefs and reactions, as already discussed. Because I think things like racism can be logically picked apart, and hopefully, if there was a platform to be given, that could be used to kind of dismantle that kind of ideology. Because typically it comes down to a lack of familiarity, or some kind of insecurity, or superiority complex, some kind of psychological issue. Though that won't be perceived to be that case from the perpetrators, most probably. Right. Another one from May 2024. So for the climate change deniers, might be worth focusing on the effects of the causes of climate change, of the things that cause climate change. So pollution, because even if they don't believe climate change is real, most people will probably want clean air, water, food, water and food, etc. for themselves, whoop, slash their family, slash mates, etc. and their kids, etc. So I just got a message at the same time. Problem with using the term climate change is that as soon as it's heard, it's likely to shut off from the topic. Think about other things instead. Right. I guess that applies to anything that someone doesn't believe in. As soon as they hear the words of the thing that they kind of discount as being a thing, that probably shifts them away from the kind of discussion, and probably doesn't help really. But yeah, even if people deny climate change, the things that are causing climate change are all going to cause pollution here. So most people want these kind of things: clean air, water and food, etc. So maybe just for those people, phrasing it as these things rather than climate change. I'm slowly starting to wake up as we progress here. Emphasis on slowly. God damn, I'm aching so much from the gym yesterday. I highly recommend not doing bench press, deadlifts, military press and squats all in one sesh after many weeks off. Oh. Right, another one from May 2024. The encouraged aspiration of current society is both having and burning through tons of resources. The idea of success that's kind of encouraged to be embedded in people is having and burning through tons of resources, which obviously has issues, including the aforementioned climate change, and if someone's watching and doesn't believe in climate change, poor air quality, food quality and water, etc. Right, so consumption is encouraged as a coping mechanism for discontentment. God, I really need to wake up. Right, and discontentment is rife due to fractured communities, social media, which is or can be a useful tool, but as mentioned before, the better the tool, the more potential for it to be a more destructive weapon, whether against the self or others. Monotonous. God, I'm so tired. School and monotonous jobs, both of which often exist under strict hierarchies, whereby the majority of people have very little to no freedom or autonomy, which facilitates entitlement / superiority complexes, and also at the higher end of the hierarchy, and low self-worth / insecurity or inferiority complexes. At the lower end, dependent upon where in the hierarchy we are. This disparity in resources and self-worth I guess self-worth could be considered a resource. Further fractures society and facilitates social division and conflict. Consumption also fuels health problems. There we go. Both for people and the environment. With the environmental health problems also fueling health problems in people. Keep forgetting this. There we go. Because obviously the more environmental health problems are essentially saying the more toxicified the environment is getting. Which might not be such a bad thing if we're able to adapt to it fast enough, but if we're not, then that wouldn't be good. And even if we are able to adapt fast enough, the kind of transition of the adaptation process probably won't be too nice for those people. For the people involved, right? This in turn fuels discontentment, which then feeds back into consumption as a coping mechanism, forming a vicious cycle. I found a better way to delete notes, so I don't have to try and delete them twice now. Alright. Apparently I've done a few notes this month. Where do we direct our time and energy versus spend? Not a fan, I keep saying it because I'm so used to saying it, but not a fan of spend because it's too tainted by capitalism, the ideology of everything can be bought, spent, including time, people's guess it could be a apostrophe on the end there. Obviously that's not the only thing with capitalism, but that's one of the things. Everything comes down to buying and selling, really. Well, that's the main focus, being as the profit incentive is the main focus. Important question to ask ourselves every now and then. Since capitalism incentivizes companies to relentlessly try and get our attention, time and money, and people with lots of power / money can also benefit from the masses having their attention, time and money drained. Since then, less can be directed towards changing the system to something less hierarchical with less resource disparity. So I might sound a little bit kind of tinfoil hatty, that one. Might have to get myself a tinfoil hat. But obviously some people with lots of who are very high up the hierarchy and have lots of money and power and resources generally, if they're enjoying their lives and they therefore want to maintain the system, then one of the ways to maintain the system is to ensure that a lot of people's time and energy and just generally resources generally are not directed towards changing the system, because obviously they're benefited from the system, and if they want to maintain it, if they want to keep it that way, then having people trying to change it is obviously not good for them. So I don't. Although it does sound a bit tinfoil hatty, I don't think it's actually tinfoil hat. I think it's just people's interests, isn't it? It's people's interests and what they're trying to achieve. All right, May 2024. Don't be angry at AI for taking jobs. Be angry at a system that punishes people if something comes in and drastically reduces our workload. So I've seen a lot of articles and also watched a podcast of a couple of guys and a gal who work in tech, and a lot of the articles they've been reading are all kind of going on about AI taking jobs and how that's such a bad thing, but really it should be a great thing. If AI could take all jobs, that would be even better. Because basically AI has the potential to drastically reduce workload, which should be a good thing, because that means that the workload that's left should be able to be shared at least relatively equally between the rest of people, which means everyone should get more free time and energy to be able to be spent doing the things that we spent directed towards doing the things that we want to do and the things that we value. But obviously at the moment the system is pretty broken to the point that we're seeing this thing that might reduce workload drastically and seeing it as a bad thing. It's just a kind of a red flag on the system, or just a sign that the system ain't that good. Could be improved. And speaking of, another one from May 2024. We live in a system where somehow taking away is providing, or at least framed that way. More demanding lifestyle creates jobs. Article on Sweden's. Screenshot of the article. Well, I'll just have to explain that, I guess, which I have done in the one of the other videos. But basically, short Scott. I am really tired right now. Screenshotted article. I'll leave that there just in case. So I'll come back to this and need to be reminded about that. Yeah, basically there was a BBC article on BBC, and it was about the Sweden's kind of rich, and one of the guys had some gardeners and cleaners and stuff, and was phrasing it as a good thing basically. And I've seen the same kind of thought process on an old Vice video where there was a billionaire, I think he was in Russia or something. Same idea basically. Creating jobs. The whole goal was to create jobs, which essentially is creating workload. And obviously, yeah, that's essentially where living a more demanding lifestyle is trying to be framed as a good thing. It's bloody ridiculous, like. It's like a lord hiring jesters and claiming it's a good thing. Look, guys, I've got 20 jesters in my court. Think of the lifestyle I'm providing for them. Yes. Ah, dear. You gotta laugh sometimes. You gotta laugh at how ridiculous this world is. Remember, I guess this was a little reminder to myself. Most people care about others, and those that don't aren't well. That's all the note is, but I'm going to add to it, in my very tired state, that we should be wary that a society that, or system that focuses on individualism can facilitate the perception of selfishness. Let's say that. It's almost self-fulfilling. So yeah, if you've got a system whereby it encourages people to focus on themselves, and once again this leads back to the whole aspiration to consume, to live a really demanding lifestyle, to have loads of stuff and to burn through loads of resources, then that has the possible issue and probable issue, I think, of people then looking around at other people and going, oh look, they're behaving really, or at least more selfishly, and that might then encourage the person witnessing that to be like, well, if they're going to behave selfishly, then I'm going to behave selfishly. Of course, it could have the opposite effect. It really depends on the reaction of the people that are witnessing it. And a lot of this, I think, is maybe not consciously thought about. It might be a subconscious kind of thing going on. But yeah, I think the percentage of people that don't care about any others is extremely low. And that would be classed as, I don't know if it's still called psychopathy, actually. I did mention psychopathy or sociopathy in the previous, or one of the previous videos, but it might be that it's changed its lingo since I last looked into it, because I think it might be like antisocial personality disorder or something now. But I think that's an important thing to remind ourselves of, especially when we live in a system that really focuses on individualism, because that can subtly and perniciously have an effect on our own perceptions. Oh, another one from May 2024. I don't give a shit. It can be a contagious ideology. Asterix. So, for example, recycling. See other people not giving a shit. No point in giving a shit myself. Kind of related to the previous note, actually, I guess, in a way. Which might be the thought process for some. Of course, it might go the other way. It might be more see other people giving a shit and be like, well, I need to give even more of a shit. Really, once again, depends on the person's reaction. I don't give a shit. Is a contagious... Wait, what? Contagious ideology. Oh, right, I see. Why? So, I don't give a shit can be a contagious ideology versus I don't give a shit is a contagious ideology. This latter one sounds better. But why? And that's because I think we seem to seek definitive proofs, probably because they can or they simplify life. And simple life can require less energy. Principle of energy conservation. I hope that made sense. Basically, like if you hear people talking, or like see quotes and stuff, they tend to be phrased, or the most memorable ones, or the most good sounding ones. Good sounding. That didn't sound good. Tend to be phrased as like a definitive thing, rather than a potential thing. So I.e. using is rather than can be in this instance. Tools versus weapons. Every tool can be used as a weapon. Social media can serve as well as a tool, or be weaponized against us, either by others or by ourselves, or both. Running apps / progress apps / tracking generally can be used as a tool, can also create anxiety or sap the fun out of an activity, or should I say, reactivity, etc. There's just a couple of examples. Another one being the philosophy of chill. The idea that free will doesn't exist can be used as a very useful tool towards world peace, or it can be used as a kind of pseudo justification for negative actions or negative reactions. Well, I wasn't to blame fundamentally. All depends on how people use these things. May 2024. Let's check my blood sugars. Oh, just quickly shoot up. Juding. Right, there we go. Juding. Bloody hellfire, mate. Judging. People based on looks versus their other reactions, beliefs, ideas, and reactions. So this is related to the philosophy of chill and the lack of free will. So it's interesting how, in terms of judging people, don't judge a book by its cover. You shouldn't judge people based on how they look, etc. But of course, if free will doesn't exist, then not only should we not judge people based on how they look, but we should also not judge people based on their beliefs, ideas, and reactions. Obviously, the word judging is very vague. We could look at people's beliefs, ideas, and reactions and make an informed opinion as to whether we want to adopt them or do them ourselves. So we can judge in that sense, but judging in terms of how it tends to be used in terms of judging people for their looks. Oh. Maybe I should put are equally out of our control. And of course, despite people saying, don't do these things, I think, I can't remember what the articles were that I read. I think these things do play out, though, where people who are better looking tend to do better. Maybe there's like an implicit bias or something in terms of job hiring and stuff like that. I do remember reading an article on that a while back. It's been a while, though, and I didn't really delve into it too deeply, so I don't know how true that is. April 2024. Fuck the status quo. But if fucking the status quo becomes the status quo, then fucking the status quo. The dynamic between seeking change away from the norm / the unique seekers. Obviously, if we're always seeking a change away from the norm, and enough people do that it becomes a new norm, then we're going to be constantly in this kind of cycle of looking for change, even though potentially the new norm might be a really good norm. Yeah, I quite like that. April 2024. So this looks like it's a world peace thing. All these notes are going to be about random stuff, I think. Sphere of compassion, sphere of care, circle of care. So I think this is the first time I decided to change the sphere of compassion which I use, which is, as I said, sounds a bit la-di-da, into the circle of care, or cock. So who or what we consider worth caring about, and whether we consider someone / something a who or a what. E.g. for me, pigs and other animals conventionally considered livestock, which is a definitive tribalistic stereotypical label as mentioned in that other video, were more like what's back in the day rather than who's. More like objects to be exploited. Didn't really give it much thought, just kind of went with the status quo. Speaking of status quo. Yeah, it's not like I deliberately thought of them as what's, but I just didn't really think about them. Dun, dun, dun. April 2024. A few of my goals. I should probably keep this note though. Just need to really combine them all. So my goals are have only one home and no more properties than that. So I haven't reached that goal yet because I still need to get myself a home. Have passive income only in as much as it mitigates depreciation. So preferably, so this kind of relates to the previous goals as well, because obviously people tend to hoard properties in order to develop passive income. So preferably not much in the way of investments, as investments dictate where other people can spend, using the word spend there, their time / energy. Have my contribution outweigh my consumption. So this is something I need to work on. Considering technology, but also those without the capacity to ensure that their contribution is higher than their consumption. Study AI and stream, as well as hopefully do some other stuff as well. So what I mean by that is, well, that bit's quite obvious, having contribution outweigh consumption. Considering technology, so for example, there's a lot of really good technology in terms of food production. So that obviously means that we, in theory, don't need to spend as much time working. Although I don't want to say as much time contributing, because I think most people really enjoy contributing. It's the nature of work in the current system that's one of the main issues. But then also to cover for those that, whether they're through mental or physical illnesses, can't contribute higher than their consumption. I'm thinking about looking into this, but I think by the time I study AI enough, I think it'll be teaching itself way better than I can. Oh mate, I'll keep that note because yeah, I need to add to it. Obviously I've got more goals than that. I've got more notes on goals than that somewhere. March 2024. So it's on depression. So I did do an entire video where I kind of collated all my notes on mental health. So I must have made this afterwards, maybe. So what's depression like for those that haven't had it? With the disclaimer that I was never officially diagnosed, it's just that a lot of the symptoms I seem to have seem to fall in line with that particular issue. First is that everyone's experience will be slightly different. So I'll just describe mine. And that applies to all illnesses and just, yeah, life experiences generally. It's kind of hard to imagine what it's like. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think it depends on how well it's explained, so let's see how I do it. Because there's lots of different symptoms happening at once, and it affects nearly everything in life. But I'll try and explain as best I can. So everyone has things that they know about, like certain other people's hobbies that they neither like nor dislike, that they're not really bothered about. Now imagine that same feeling applied to all of our hobbies, and then on top of that, damn, I wrote that. What time did I write this? Wasn't even that late. And then on top of that, it started to affect the way we act with other people in conversation, because we don't have things we're really interested in or excited about. Or find things fun. So it's hard to have a good conversation, chat. Because obviously good conversations and chat tend to require some level of creativity and some level of interest or excitement and energy generally. So if those things are missing, it's hard to have. So we feel disconnected and tend to isolate ourselves, making ourselves do even less, and therefore having less things to talk about when we do meet up with other people. And this also makes us out of practice socially, so we're more likely to fuck up and say something a bit off or cause an awkward silence or something because we don't have anything to say, or at least nothing to say that we're interested in or excited about, or that we want to say. Then this becomes, or has the potential to become, a vicious cycle, because it makes us more likely to isolate even more, giving us even less to talk about and putting us even more out of practice. Now on top of all that, it also messes with our memory. Once again, like we're cramming for a test in a subject we're not bothered about. As well as, whilst on subject memory, as well as distorting our memories of things that we used to find kind of fun or interesting or whatever. It drags or drains the fun and interest and excitement about those memories and times as well. Drains the positivity out of those as well. And of course, there's the general sense of pointlessness / hopelessness and stagnation, sense of stagnation rather than a sense of moving forward / progressing towards something. The Sims analogy. Oh. And I guess the classroom analogy, which was kind of alluded to just then. But The Sims, for those who haven't played it, is obviously no. If you haven't played it, it's not obvious. For those who haven't played it, is where you get a character and then you basically try and live a life through the character, or like you're kind of like the god of the people there. You get to choose what they do and things and how they interact and whatnot. And when they interact with people or hobbies, they get either pluses or minuses, depending, or at least they did in the older games. I've not played the new ones, so I don't know if that's still the case. They get pluses or minuses, up to 3 pluses or 3 minuses, depending on how positively or negative they react to their interaction. And I would say having depression is like where the pluses, rather than the 3 plus, you might occasionally, very rarely, get 1 plus or like half a plus or something. I mean, half a plus is a minus, depending on how you, or it's just a line like that. And the same with the negatives, or potentially sometimes you get even more negatives. And then over time, that obviously affects not just mood, but energy levels. And I think energy, excitement, and interest are the kind of 3 of the main ones: motivation and memory. But as I say, I did an entire video on that, which I think mentioned these things, as well as lots of other things. But the classroom analogy is essentially like, if we imagine we're in a class, I think everyone's had a class at some point in school whereby, well, some people did homeschool, to be fair, so a lot of people will get this, where we're in a class and we're just really not interested at all in the subject, either the subject matter or the way it's being delivered by the teacher. Now, usually in those kind of situations, if we're feeling well, we'll probably do something creative, though maybe not deemed so by the teacher, in order to keep ourselves interested. So we'll like mess around and like do stupid stuff. But depression is like being in that class where you're not interested in not only the subject matter and the way it's being delivered, but also not being interested or excited or having any energy to do anything creative to distract ourselves from the fact that we're incredibly bored in the lesson. So there's no drive or motivation to to do that either. And then imagine that, but rather than just for the period of one class, extended over months or years. All right. March 2024. Be wary of good speakers or orators. They can be both influential or manipulative, depending on our perspective as to whether the thing that they're influencing or manipulating is good or bad. One of the things that can make us more easily manipulable, as if we think we're not easily manipulable. I think I probably wrote this in respect to Andrew Tate, because he's a very good speaker. Puts a lot of energy and emphasis, and he's just a very good speaker generally. I don't really know much about the dude, aside from he's a good speaker. One of the things I do know is that his kind of idea of success or perception of success seems to be very kind of capitalistic, in that, as mentioned earlier, it's success is having an extremely demanding lifestyle, having tons of stuff, tons of possessions, tons of power and things over others, and just generally burning through tons of resources. And I think that is probably one of the most dangerous things about him. Obviously, I've heard his name, and I think a lot of people have heard his name. Has become emerged into the zeitgeist a little bit over the last few years. And one of the most dangerous things about him, I think, is that even if he's encouraging people to try and be the best version of themselves, he's probably also showcasing his perception of what success is, which involves, as I say, burning through tons of resources. And if he's encouraging millions, potentially millions of other people to burn through tons of resources, that could be quite a problem. Obviously, if he's encouraging people to become the best versions of themselves in other ways, like physically, mentally, etc., that's a good thing. But yeah. Anyway, that's enough on that, shall we? Shall we move on? Yes, let's shall. March 2024. Everyone knows that self-confidence is important, but it took losing it to realise how much it permeates almost everything in our lives. It takes to realise. It takes confidence. Oh my god, confidence, there we go. To have conversations and tell stories. So when that confidence is replaced by anxiety, it not only takes away the joy that doing that can bring, but it also causes us to persist in a state of anxiety or isolate ourselves more, which usually ultimately ends up doing the same thing. So again, this is related to mental health. Another one related to mental health, apparently. Closed off thinking versus being able to connect things and pull relevant / interesting info from different areas, which is creative. I think some more sugar's going up. Bloody hell, that. Depression is like a subconscious addiction to negative thoughts / perceptions, the people's intentions, the societal system, and life generally, coupled with a general lack of interest, motivation, want for anything, leading to memory and time perception problems and foggy / foogy foggy / closed off rather than clear and creative thinking, as well as a general sense of anxiety, especially social, chronic fatigue, very little infrequent, sporadic, or no excitement / enthusiasm / psych for anything. A general feeling like we're existing rather than living, waiting around to either feel alive again or feel like we're living again, or to die, depending on the state of mind. So I'll add that, depending on the current state of mind. Brackets, and all of this over a prolonged period of time, many months or years. So that's depression versus depressed, because I've noticed that often the two are kind of conflated, which is usually an unhappiness, sometimes quite severe. Unhappiness. that something either has or hasn't happened that we either wanted or didn't want to happen. So typically over a relatively short period of time, days/weeks, and perhaps a month or so. So I think these terms, depression and depressed, are like vast worlds apart, really, in a lot of ways. But often I've noticed they're used interchangeably. Probably because they're so similar sounding. February 2024. Seeking contentment, as well as physical health. A big part of mental health is a sense/feeling of belonging and a sense of understanding/being understood from others. Even though we can never truly understand exactly what someone else is going through, as we all have a unique combination of experiences and perceptions and beliefs, ideologies, etc. Hopefully we can at least take some solace in that we're all the same, and that we're all unique. ... lol. Also, a little note on seeking contentment, in that if we're seeking it, we're implicitly telling ourselves that we're not content, or that we're at least less content than we could be. Therefore, when we're truly content, we won't be seeking it. True contentment probably lies in decent general well-being/wellness, plus immersion in some kind of rewarding reactivity, which I guess would be flow or in the zone. There's lots of different ways of describing that. Extra bracket there. Oh. We'll do one more note. February 2024. To add to the image of society and Mother Nature. Wait, what? To add to the image of society and Mother Nature. Ah, okay, right, yeah. Pointing a gun or a bazooka. Respectively. So this is a note to add to another note that I made, which I haven't gone through, so this hopefully will make sense. I might have to explain it. The average person, add a caricature of a rich person blocking the gun of society from pointing at the average person, whilst simultaneously holding his own gun up to them, and also giving Mother Nature more firepower somehow, since rich people forcing others into work tends to result in further consumption / burning of resources, therefore exacerbating threat that nature poses, or the threat of the toxicification or the exponential toxicification of the environment. So yeah, that was more on a... I was thinking about either drawing it myself, although I'm not very good at drawing. So I was thinking about maybe it'd be good if someone who knows how to draw would come up with an image where it's like an average person kind of caught in between society and Mother Nature, and then a caricature of a rich person blocking the gun of society from pointing the average person, which is to represent... what is that to represent? Oh yeah, that's to represent the whole idea of... I'm still a bit tired. As mentioned earlier, the whole... we're creating jobs, look how we're protecting you, look how we're helping you. So that's to represent that. So they're blocking the gun of society, the stick of society, while simultaneously pointing their own gun at them, which is to represent the fact that because they're higher up the hierarchy, they essentially dictate. They take the lion's share of the freedom and autonomy, and leave the average person with none, essentially none, at least in the workplace. And then also giving them more firepower, because, and that kind of was explained, because the whole disparity in autonomy and freedom and resources generally tends to lead to some kind of consumptive coping mechanism which burns through more resources, and burning through more resources leads to more pollutants, more toxification of the environment, and therefore giving Mother Nature more of a weapon to use against people. But the Mother Nature should be pointing not just at the average person, but also the rich person as well. Hopefully that made some sense. As I say, that note was to add to a previous note, which I don't know where it is. There's a lot of notes in there. But yeah, we're approaching an hour, so I think I'll call it here. I need to go and get some food and wake up and move around a bit, so as you can probably tell, a little bit tired. And keep getting back spasms from bloody gymming yesterday. But yeah, I hope you all have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your week, and just good time generally. And hope to catch you soon. Take care, everyone. Peace.